Donald Trump has ordered the United States Mint to stop producing pennies. Slow down there, Captain. In a few hours, Americans are going to need those pennies after you crash our economy. Trump decided to get rid of the penny, partly because the penny costs more to make than it's actually worth, but mostly because Lincoln freed the slaves. Trump also announced that he is going to impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports. So if you're watching around the world and your country is a steel producer, brace yourself. Tomorrow he's going to reverse the tariffs. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said Sunday that she recommended to Donald Trump that he get rid of FEMA. Calling FEMA untrainable and worthless, she offered to take FEMA to the gravel pit and shoot it in the face while her kids watched. Then Trump explained FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, not the name of Barron and Melania's Italian Greyhound. Actually, they don't have an Italian Greyhound, but if they did, Melania would name it FEMA. Apparently, I have been misquoted. I never said the Super Bowl was stupid. I said the people who watch it are. Like this guy, Donald Trump, who just became the first sitting president ever to attend a Super Bowl. The Eagles asked Trump to come because what better way to celebrate the tush push than by inviting the world's biggest ass? Look at Trump arriving inside the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans. There he is answering the age-old question, what if chronic traumatic encephalopathy wore a suit and a red tie? Trump wanted to be at the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl is communal. It's something our entire country gets to share at the same exact time, like COVID. Donald Trump predicted the Kansas City Chiefs would win, so of course the Eagles defeated the Chiefs 40-22. He knows how to pick them. Well, you know, Elon Musk said if you wanted the Chiefs to win, I would have spent $300 million. Donald Trump flew in on Air Force One, where he downed a Happy Meal, then treated his fellow passengers to his very own three-peat. They didn't get a three-peat from the Chiefs, but they got a three-peat from the chief executive when he started belching, farting, and soiling his boxers all at the same time. That's Donald Trump's three-peat. While traveling aboard Air Force One to New Orleans, Trump told reporters Elon Musk is doing a great job, adding Musk has nothing to gain from the work he's doing for the United States government. He's Mother Teresa. He's Albert Schweitzer. Yes, Musk is just doing it out of the badness of his own heart. Because when you become the richest man in the world, and you're in your 50s, you begin to reflect on your own mortality and realize that after a while, it's pointless to keep taking for yourself. It's way more satisfying when you start giving to yourself. Yes, there is no greater calling in life than pulling the plug on famine relief so you can pay less in taxes. Elon Musk wanted to go to the Super Bowl, but it was Sunday, the day of our Lord, and he was too busy cutting off government funding to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Before the Super Bowl, Fox News aired an interview with Donald Trump. Trump told Bret Baier of Fox News that despite members of his administration walking back last week's statement that he plans to buy Gaza, Trump last night said he is absolutely serious about buying Gaza. On the flight to New Orleans, he told reporters, quote, think of it as a big real estate site and the United States is going to own it. Trump said the United States should buy, own, and develop Gaza while finding another place for the Palestinians to live. You know, you could spend a lifetime searching, and I dare you to find a dumber idea than this one. I mean, there is absolutely no upside for anybody in this equation. Let's build a vacation resort literally over the fresh burial grounds of nearly 60,000 people. I look at the tragedy of Gaza and I think, how do we end the suffering? How do we get food, medicine, feminine hygiene products, blankets, tents, and new homes to these people? I see Gaza as a gaping wound of endless sorrow. Donald Trump sees Gaza and thinks, luxury resort. Hard to believe, as a real estate developer, the man only went bankrupt 6 times. I mean, if you gathered 70 Nobel laureates in the same room and said, I'm giving you 48 hours to come up with a dumber idea than this, they'd be stumped. You can't top the idea of America buying Gaza, evicting 2 million Palestinians and turning it into Las Vegas, the Riviera. He said turning it into the Riviera to Las Vegas. Gambling, prostitutes, and alcohol. I mean, how could that possibly incense the Islamic Brotherhood? How could that possibly incite a jihad? I'd like to think this one is Trump's apotheosis of stupidity. One would think this one is his mic drop. You retire after this idea. You cannot top it. I'm done. Good night, everybody. But sadly, I'm absolutely positive that by tomorrow morning, Donald Trump will have surpassed even this. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and my sister is going to be calling me in hysterics. Did you hear? He's outsourcing the application of our nuclear launch codes to Brooks and Dunn. We don't go to DEFCON 1 unless Brooks and Dunn say we do. You know, I was going to say something crazy to top Gaza, like invading Canada, but he's already planning that. So I went with outsourcing our nuclear launch codes to Brooks and Dunn. As of Monday, we've had 3 weeks of this D-bag, and now he's planning to invade Canada. But here's the thing. Trump is the master of controlling news cycles. He knows if he says crazy things, the media laps it all up. But the genius of Trump is he says crazy things to distract us, to take our eyes off the ball. While we're freaking out over this crazy stuff he's saying, we're not paying attention to his real world, concrete plans that the people who put him in charge know is not only sane, but doable, like declaring war on Denmark. That's they're distracting us so we don't notice the invasion of Denmark. Not to take control of Greenland, because it's the birthplace of Hans Christian Andersen, who wrote The Emperor's New Clothes, which gives Donald Trump nightmares. So he wants to destroy Denmark. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has privately warned members of his own party, and this was caught on tape, that Trump is dead serious about making America's mineral-rich neighbor to the north its 51st state. Trudeau says Trump knows Canada, like Greenland, is a literal gold mine of rare earths that are indispensable for powering the 21st century. Now, you know, and I know, and the Canadians know that sober-minded people in this country always prevail, and that the United States would never allow this mentally deformed bunghole protuberance to invade Canada. It's out of the realm of possibilities. The same way after January 6th, we would never allow this orange, spackled, perforated anus back into the Oval Office. This is where Donald Trump belongs. And they took out his uppers so he wouldn't harm himself. Mike Waltz our national security advisor, was on Sunday's Meet the Press, and he was asked if Trump was serious about invading Canada. And Mike Waltz uttered words I never thought I'd hear coming out of a United States national security advisor's mouth. He said, quote, "I don't think there's any plans to invade Canada." I don't think. Who knows? Maybe I'm out of the loop on this one. All I can tell you is if Donald Trump goes to war with Canada, there are going to be more American draft dodgers invading Canada than soldiers. Joe Biden's security clearance has been revoked, and he will no longer receive intelligence briefings. This, of course, is Trump getting even with Joe Biden for revoking Trump's intelligence briefings after he left office and brought back to Mar-a-Lago a treasure trove of state secrets. But this all begs the question, why is any private citizen, Biden, Obama, Clinton, George W. Bush, why are they getting intelligence briefings after they leave the Oval Office? Who in the old boys club decided this was a good idea? Look, I know he's no longer president, but let's provide him with up-to-the-minute, state-of-the-art intelligence so he knows how to invest his $20 million book deal. That's why they get those intelligence briefings. It's not none of it is actionable. George W. Bush is going to invade the wrong country again? Chairwoman Ellen Weintraub of the Federal Election Commission was fired on Friday by Donald Trump. She's a Democrat. The Federal Election Commission monitors elections and, more importantly, enforces campaign finance law. Because the number of Democrats and Republicans on the Federal Election Commission is evenly split right down the middle, for the past 4 years, they've been unable to decide if Donald Trump was breaking the law by raising hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars after he lost in 2020 to investigate voter fraud. Now, he raised the money, but instead he used all of that money to pay for his lawyers and Melania's stylist. Because there are an equal number of Republicans as Democrats on the Federal Election Commission, nobody can seem to decide if it's legal to raise hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars telling your MAGA morons you need this money to investigate voter fraud. And then you take that money and you don't use it to investigate voter fraud. Well, why would you? There is none. Instead, you spend it on lawyers and Melania's stylists. They didn't investigate voter fraud. Ask Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, John Eastman, Bernard Kerik, Kenneth Chesebro, if any of that money, any of the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars Donald Trump raised was ever spent investigating voter fraud. These are lawyers who traveled around the country in the lead up to and after January 6th, trying to prove voter fraud, trying to investigate voter fraud, and Trump never paid them a red cent. He didn't even pay their legal bills. He owes Rudy Giuliani $3 million. Rudy billed him $3 million. Never got paid. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. The Save America PAC raised hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to investigate voter fraud. Instead, it went to Donald Trump's lawyers and Melania's stylist. But the Federal Election Commission just can't seem to decide if that's a violation of campaign finance law. What do you think? It's complicated, isn't it? When you raise money, telling people you're going to spend it on this, but instead you spend it on that? I mean, what do I know? That sounds like wire fraud to me, and of course, Jack Smith, and of course, former New York Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik, who was owed the money and reportedly told Special Counsel Jack Smith, this is wire fraud. Well, one of the beneficiaries of all these donations to the Save America PAC was this homunculus, Emil Bove, who worked as Trump's attorney in the hush money case, which you might remember Trump lost, making Trump the first president not to just attend the Super Bowl, but to attend it as a convicted felon. We've never had a president attend the Super Bowl as a convicted felon. Donald Trump is a convicted felon, thanks partially to the incompetence of Emil Bove, who was his attorney during that hush money trial, which he lost. And Emil Bove has been named acting Deputy Attorney General as we wait for Bove's boss, Trump's lead defense attorney, Todd Blanche, to be approved by the Senate. But in the meantime, acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove has ordered the FBI and the Justice Department to provide the names of every single agent and prosecutor inside the FBI and Justice Department who worked on the January 6 prosecutions. 1,500 prosecutions, the single largest prosecution in the Justice Department's history. Emil Bove said in his email demanding the names that we cannot trust people to work in the FBI and Justice Department who aren't loyal to Mein Fuhrer. And anyone who prosecuted January 6ers isn't loyal. That's what it said in his email. That's what Emil's email said. But he's Trump's attorney. He's a Trump pick. So what does that mean? He's not only homunculus, he's stupid. According to the Daily Beast, before going to work as a defense attorney, Emil Bove worked as an assistant United States attorney in the Southern District of New York up until the end of 2022. And it turns out he helped prosecute many of the January Sixers. They are stupid. They are stupid. Say what you want about Trump's New Jersey strip mall attorney, Alina Habba. At least she was pretty. Emil Bove is ugly and stupid. I mean, you got to admit, Alina Habba said, I'd rather have you think I'm pretty than smart. That's what she said. Attorney General Pam Bottle Blonde Bondi has ordered the FBI to dissolve its Foreign Influence Task Force. The FBI will no longer be investigating whether foreign governments might be funneling money to candidates for higher office. I wonder why that is. It's interesting. You know, for example, if, say, Vladimir Putin wanted to influence, a presidential election to install a malignant narcissistic puppet inside the Oval Office, he might, say, give $40-50 million to the National Rifle Association as straw donors so that they could in turn pass that money along to his favorite candidate for president. Of course, that would be illegal, and we would want the FBI and the Justice Department to look into something like that. But Attorney General Pam Bottle Blonde Bondi has gotten rid of the Foreign Influence Task Force. I guess she knows what's best for us. NBC News also reporting that Pam Bottle Blonde Bondi has also instructed the Justice Department to refrain from enforcing the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA. By law, any American working as a lobbyist for a foreign nation must register with the Justice Department, and failure to register as a foreign lobbyist, according to the statute, would result in a $250,000 fine and 5 years in prison. Odd that she would say, let's stop enforcing the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Odd. Rudy Giuliani lobbied on behalf of Ukraine, Iran, and Turkey, never registered. never prosecuted. Kellyanne Conway, as we speak, is lobbying on behalf of TikTok, representing its parent company, ByteDance, which I'm pretty sure is not an American company, but Kellyanne Conway never registered as a foreign lobbyist. And she would never run afoul of the law. She's a truth seeker. So, you know what? I guess ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, that must be an American company. NBC News also reporting that Attorney General Pam Bottle Blonde Bondi has also disbanded Task Force Kleptocapture and the Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative. Who's naming these organizations? DC Comics? Well, these were set up after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in order to seize the foreign assets belonging to Vladimir Putin and his cronies. Gee, I wonder what prompted Pam Bottle Blonde Bondi to do something like that. Why would she do that? Treasury Secretary and hedge fund billionaire Scott Bessent was named acting head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau last week. He immediately ordered a freeze on all of the agency's activities, including defending a Biden rule that came out of this agency preventing medical debt from being factored into our credit scores. Right before leaving office, Vice President Kamala Harris announced that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which polices lenders, she announced it was issuing an order that prevents credit score companies from considering medical debt when it rates your risk. Medical debt is the number one cause of bankruptcy in America. Thank you, United Healthcare. People with medical debt find it difficult or impossible to get a credit card, an auto loan, and sometimes even find landlords aren't willing to rent to them because their credit score has been trashed by medical debt. Plus, because of that medical debt, they are considered a bigger risk. So they are forced to pay usurious interest rates, biblically usurious interest rates, right? The less risk you are, the lower your interest rates, which is why Donald Trump, when he was refinancing the loans for all his real estate, would forge his business records to make it look like he was worth way more than he actually was. See, by lying to Deutsche Bank, for example, Donald Trump was able to secure hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in loans at much lower interest rates than they would be if the banks knew how broke he really was. This is why last year he was ordered to pay $500 million in fines after losing a civil lawsuit filed by New York State Attorney General Letitia James, where she proved he defrauded lenders. Trump is appealing, but in order to appeal, he had to come up with a $355 million bond to be placed in escrow pending the outcome of the appeal. Now, initially, the bond was going to be $500 million. And Trump's attorney said, we don't have the money, and nobody is stupid enough to give us a bond. The problem, if you remember, this was a year ago, Alina Habba literally told Judge Engoron, it is, quote unquote, impossible to find the money or find anyone to lend Donald Trump money to post the bond. So they renegotiated. Judge Engoron said, okay, $350 million. Well, out of nowhere came billionaire Don Hankey, Mr. Hankey, and his Knight Specialty Insurance Company. And Mr. Hankey said, I'll post the bond through my company, Knight Specialty Insurance. Knight Specialty lends money. especially to veterans, at subprime loans. So they get to buy cars, and then when the exorbitant interest rates kick in, they lose their cars. Jose Pagliari is an investigative reporter over at the Daily Beast, and he wrote in April of last year, quote, Trump opted for an insurance company in California. This is to get the bond. Trump opted for an insurance company in California that's tied to Don Hankey, a billionaire MAGA supporter who's built a nasty reputation by dealing in subprime auto loans that have resulted in numerous complaints about predatory business practices like illegally repossessing the cars of American soldiers, unquote. That's Mr. Hankey. And you know he supports the troops. You know he has an American flag on his lapel. And who, pray tell, would be the federal agency that polices subprime auto loans to our soldiers, or subprime mortgages that trick our veterans, trick Americans into buying homes they can't afford? Well, that would be the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that polices people like Mr. Hankey. That would be the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where lawyers representing credit reporting companies that want to be able to factor in your medical debt when they come up with your credit score, they are suing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to reverse the Biden rule that says your medical debt cannot be factored into your credit score. And since Trump became president, these lawyers for the credit reporting companies have succeeded in convincing a federal judge in Texas to block the Biden rule. That would require now, since the judge ruled to block the Biden rule, that now requires the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to appeal this federal judge's ruling. That would be if the Trump administration wanted to keep this new rule that protects people with medical debt. But hedge fund billionaire and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has signaled as acting head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that he won't appeal the judge's ruling, which means in some states, medical debt will once again be factored into your credit score. Not here in New York, but in many states, people who have medical debt will be unable to rent a car, get a credit card, buy a home, sometimes even rent a home. On Saturday, Scott Bessent, that would be the billionaire hedge fund manager who's now our Treasury Secretary, he was replaced as acting director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau by a new acting director by the name of Russell Vought, who is also our new director of the Office of Management and Budget. On Saturday, Vought immediately announced he was zeroing out all spending for the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. You're welcome, Mr. Hankey. Again, this is the agency that protects Americans from predatory lenders. You know, the guys who give subprime loans to our soldiers. You're welcome, Mr. Hankey. Vought then ordered the Bureau's headquarters for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau closed for a week, telling employees, you got to work remotely, which I thought Trump wanted to put an end to. I thought he wanted to put an end to remote work. But what Trump wants to put an end to is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You're welcome, Mr. Hankey. He wants to destroy the agency that polices predatory lenders like Mr. Hankey. According to the Daily Beast, Mr. Hankey, who came up with the $350 million bond last year for Donald Trump, according to the Daily Beast, predatory lender, policed by the agency that just by coincidence Donald Trump is shutting down. Mr. Law and Order, Donald Trump. Literally destroying it. Elon Musk has already tweeted, "Rest in peace, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau." So this is MAGA populism. Getting rid of all the guardrails that protect hard-working Americans from having their money stolen by banks and predatory lenders. Trump, during his first term, Mick Mulvaney, also played dual roles as chief of the Office of Management and Budget and was head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Before that, Mulvaney was a congressman whose biggest contributors came from payday lenders. Payday lenders were his biggest contributors. Donald Trump in his first term made him acting director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to police payday lenders. And I'm not making this up. Payday lenders lend cash at the same rate as your traditional loan shark. In some cases, it's actually cheaper to go to a loan shark. You can borrow $100 from a payday lender, and within 1 year, they will take on so many fees. They will tack on so many fees, real and imagined, that the $100 that you borrowed is now $300. But Mick Mulvaney, Russell Vought, Mr. Hanke, Republicans will say it's all about personal responsibility. Nobody's forcing you to go to a payday lender. It's choice. You chose it. Nobody's putting a gun to the head of a single mom whose daughter is sick and needs an operation or needs insulin. Nobody's putting a gun to the head of a single mom making minimum wage, on Medicaid, undercovered, whose daughter needs insulin. It's all about personal responsibility. If this single mother doesn't have the money to pay for her daughter's insulin, then you don't buy it. The payday lender isn't forcing the single mom to buy insulin for her daughter. Insulin, which I might add, is a drug that you inject. I'm supposed to feel sorry for a single mom injecting drugs into her daughter? Give me a break. Last week, the Senate confirmed Russell Vought, one of the chief architects of Project 2025. You know what? There are MAGA Republicans who would have heard what I just said and nodded their head in agreement. They would go, yeah, absolutely. There is evil in this world. Last week, the Senate confirmed, speaking of evil, Russell Vought, one of the chief architects of Project 2025. He's been confirmed as our new director of the Office of Management and Budget. The vote was 53 to 47, strictly along party lines. To give you an idea of what a murderous prick Russell Vought is, even Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman voted against him. Vought served as acting director of the Office of Management and Budget near the end of the first Trump administration, very influential. He was advising the OMB, that's the Office of Management and Budget, 2 weeks ago when it tried to freeze trillions in federal grants and loans, which ended up crashing Medicaid portals in all 50 states. There are Catholic relief charities that I've been reading about, which provide for the homeless, still reeling from this. They're not able to get back up on their feet. Despite numerous court rulings to the contrary and laws, Russell Vought testified during his confirmation hearings that the 1974 Impoundment Control Act is unconstitutional. Russell Vought testified he believes a president has constitutional discretion not to spend money authorized by Congress, even though the law and the Supreme Court in countless rulings, they have all said otherwise. But Russell Vought knows, which brings me to the Treasury Department's payment systems. It is the largest financial institution in the world, and none of us know anything about it because it's worked so well. It really does. You get your Social Security checks. You just do. You get your tax refunds. Nobody knows what the Treasury Department's payment systems were until the past week when Elon Musk decided to break it, to do what he did to Twitter. It is the largest financial institution in the world, our payment systems. I want you to think, if your parents are on Social Security, your grandparents on Social Security, if you're on Social Security, if you're owed a tax refund or a child tax credit, or money has to be taken out of your bank account because you owe the government money, think how efficient these payment systems are. They work pretty good. These payment systems collect our taxes, they issue refunds, they pay out Social Security benefits, child tax credits, aid to dependent families, as in welfare. They pay for food stamps and Medicaid to the states. Everything Republicans want to get rid of. They can't say it's inefficient. This thing works better than anything. They can't say it's inefficient. They just don't like where this money goes. The money pays out block grants to police departments, foster homes, hospitals, homeless shelters, churches, mosques, synagogues, and medical research institutions. In 2024, it cut checks to states, to cities, to non-government organizations, as well as American citizens. Those checks totaled $6,752 trillion. The federal payments systems are essentially the keys to the Treasury Department. It's a sacred institution that keeps our economy, our government, and our people alive. And those keys have been handed over to Elon Musk, the world's richest man, seen here smoking dope on Joe Rogan's podcast. Donald Trump, a convicted felon who declared bankruptcy 6 times, decided Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, a team of 20-somethings with no government experience, should gain access to our entire economy's oxygen supply. A handful of man babies with no government experience get to decide who should breathe and who should suffocate. Richard Painter, who served as George W. Bush's ethics advisor, told Al Jazeera, quote, "I've never, ever seen anything like this before. It's appalling." And he was the ethics advisor to George W. Bush. Do you know how unethical someone has to be to offend this guy? From Wired magazine, headline, a U.S. Treasury threat intelligence analysis designates DOGE staff, Department of Government Efficiency staff, as insider threat. The story from Wired, and Wired has been doing a great job covering Elon Musk's takeover of our government. The story goes on to say that an internal email written by a security analyst working inside the Treasury Department called Elon Musk's access to our federal payment systems, quote, the single greatest insider threat risk the Bureau has ever faced, unquote. The problem with that email is it was written by a subcontractor, not a civil servant. A subcontractor from Booz Allen Hamilton, again, not a civil servant. The Treasury Department apparently has been outsourcing risk analysis to private subcontractors like Booz Allen Hamilton, an international conglomerate. It's all part of the plan to privatize the government. Booz Allen Hamilton is basically Elon Musk, but with the security clearance. And they don't want to upset their gravy train. So after this email was reported in the Washington Post, Booz Allen Hamilton, patriots that they are, watching our back, they immediately reassigned the subcontractor, the security analyst who wrote that email, and they apologized, saying his opinions were unauthorized. They don't reflect the views of Booz Allen Hamilton. Well, of course they don't reflect the views of Booz Allen Hamilton. This is from the Washington Post. Quote, Booz Allen won more than $1 billion in multi-year U.S. government contracts last year, unquote. These are private contractors doing the work of our civil servants for 3 times the cost and at 10 times less the efficiency. Working for the civil service, working for the post office, working for the government, working for the IRS, working as a soldier, an FBI agent, an attorney, a paralegal for the federal government, working for state, local government as a teacher, or working at the VA. This is a sacred trust. There is no greater calling than being a civil servant. Let me repeat. There is no greater calling than being a civil servant. Because government, with all its flaws, still remains our last great hope. No charity, no philanthropy, no corporation, no private contractor can deliver food, medicine, data analysis, medical care, and boots on the ground faster, more efficiently, and for less money than our government. For example, in June of 2013, Booz Allen Hamilton was forced to fire this guy, Edward Snowden. Snowden got caught leaking classified NSA documents to the Washington Post and the Guardian, as well as other journalists. This is what happens when you outsource jobs that should be performed by civil servants. Begging the question, who elected Booz Allen Hamilton to do the work of our national intelligence agencies? When did they? Nobody said I never said I was okay with Edward Snowden, a private subcontractor, poring over our NSA files, being paid to do that. So the Department of Government Efficiency boys are not the first unelected, uncivil servants to pour through your most personal information. This is what privatization looks like. This is what Project 2025 is all about. Dismantling the so-called administrative state and turning it over to corporations like Booz Allen Hamilton, who charge 3 times as much and are 10 times less efficient. 19 states, led by New York Attorney General Letitia James, sued to block Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency trolls to block their access to our Treasury Department's payment systems. On Saturday, a federal judge granted the Attorney General's request for a restraining order. So for at least 1 week, no Department of Government Efficiency man-boy is allowed to gain any access to our Treasury payment systems without proper security clearance. In other words, none of these guys working for Elon Musk have security clearance. They're not allowed to go through our files. Judge Paul Engelmeyer, in granting the stay, said the 19 attorneys general are most likely to win their case. Judge Engelmeyer agreed that the state these 19 attorneys general serve, the states these attorneys general serve, will face, quote unquote, irreparable harm if these Department of Government Efficiency rats continue to access the Treasury's payment systems. More importantly, he ordered Musk and his jackals to destroy any data they downloaded. You think they're going to destroy that data? You think they uploaded it to Grok, to Elon's AI? What do you think? Do you trust them? I do. Elon Musk, who is trying to sound more and more like Trump each day, immediately said, after this ruling, quote, "A corrupt judge protecting corruption. He needs to be impeached now." Yes. How efficient. Impeachment. Congressional hearings and a Senate trial that won't result in a conviction because you need 2/3 of the Senate. But tell me again, Elon, how bringing your much-needed, cutting-edge, state-of-the-art startup mentality to government is necessary. Tell me again how efficient you are. This man needs to be impeached now. Nothing more efficient, Elon, than impeachment. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller called this judge and all the judges overturning Trump's executive orders in the past 2 weeks, quote, rogue bureaucrats who are elected by no one, unquote. Actually, Reichsfuhrer Miller, I call him Reichsfuhrer Miller, those judges are confirmed by the Senate, which is more than we can say about Reichsfuhrer Stephen Miller or Elon Musk. Reichsfuhrer Stephen Miller's job as Deputy Chief of Staff and Elon Musk's position as head of the Department of Government Efficiency requires no Senate confirmations. Indeed, you and Elon are the rogue bureaucrats elected by no one. By the way, asked if there was any conflict of interest for Elon Musk, being both a government contractor and a government efficiency chief, the White House said they trust Elon Musk to, quote unquote, self-regulate. Self-regulate. Because as this picture of Elon Musk zig-heiling, not once, but twice, as this picture of Elon Musk zig-heiling, as it clearly indicates, the one thing Elon Musk is famous for is impulse control. This is Elon Musk self-regulating, letting slip 2 zig-heiles the night before Trump's inaugurated. By the way, Kanye West's Twitter account still hasn't been suspended. On the subject of judges halting most of Trump's executive orders, Stephen Miller said, unironically, quote, this isn't just unconstitutional. That ruling is an assault on the very idea of democracy itself. Then you should love it, Stephen Miller. You should be all in on that. This isn't just unconstitutional, it's an assault on the very idea of democracy itself. You see, this is why I don't debate or argue with these mental defects like Stephen Miller. They are the definition of bad faith actors. They talk about democracy or the Constitution, pretending they believe democracy and the Constitution are something they want to defend, when in fact they have nothing but contempt for democracy and the rule of law. It gets in the way of what they want. Arguing with Stephen Miller is like arguing Catholic dogma with an atheist, or arguing the Talmud with an anti-Semite. Miller, Musk, Steve Bannon, this is a picture of Elon Musk. He's on the right. Miller, Musk, Steve Bannon, Speaker Mike Johnson, they're playing with you. They're playing with you. They want you to think they share the same values as we do, that we both want the same things. We just differ on how to get there. No, they don't want the same things. They want it all. They want all of it for themselves. They want all of it for themselves, for wealthy, white, Christian, heterosexual misogynists who are dead inside. Stephen Miller, by the way, is Jewish, which I think puts an end to that horrible stereotype that all Jews are smart. In their lawsuit, the attorneys general argue that the Department of Government Efficiency is violating core constitutional principles. Well, of course it is, like separation of powers, Congress's power of the purse, and the Constitution's take care clause. The take care clause. The take care clause is found in Article 2, and it orders the president to take care that congressional laws are faithfully executed. And Trump is taking care of our congressional laws. He's taking care of our congressional laws much the same way Joe Pesci took care of Billy Bats in Goodfellas. The attorneys general also argued that by granting the Department of Government Efficiency access, our Treasury Secretary, billionaire hedge fund manager Scott Bessent, had exceeded his statutory authority. In other words, Scott Bessent, the new Treasury Secretary, lacks the authority to turn his agency over to Elon Musk without an act of Congress. The legal term is ultra vires, V-I-R-E-S. It means acting beyond one's authority. Hedge fund billionaire Scott Bessent didn't have the authority to turn these payment systems over to Elon Musk. He should be impeached. The attorneys general are also arguing that by allowing Musk and his rats inside the building, that is a direct violation of the Privacy Act as well as the Administrative Procedure Act. The Privacy Act, passed in 1974, prescribes very specific procedures to guarantee the financial privacy of all Americans, including your health records, which, if you had a colonoscopy, the Treasury Department's payment systems know. Only authorized federal officials are permitted to review tax returns, health records, bank statements, and personal information like your birth date, your mother's maiden name, your criminal records, your job performance reviews, your credit scores, you name it. It's all there. Except in rare instances, government officials, are forbidden from trans-agency sharing of private information. That would be agency-to-agency sharing of private information. Someone from the Department of Interior is not allowed to call over to the Treasury Department and say, send me what you got on Doug Emhoff. Let me see his tax returns. Can't do it. Can't do it. The Administrative Procedure Act was passed in 1946 with updates over the years that specify what each government agency and its employees are allowed to do. Our government is sacred. It keeps us safe. It keeps us alive. Nobody is allowed to run roughshod through its records. And you can't say you love America if you hate our government. Elon Musk has zero authority to cut off, as he did, funding to... Sorry, this is funny. He cut off funding to Lutheran Social Services. They do work for the refugees. And General Michael Flynn told Elon Musk, Lutheran Social Services, by helping refugees, is a terrorist organization. Pretty funny. This is absolutely true. General Michael Flynn was a convicted felon until Trump pardoned him. On November 10th, 2016, right after Trump won, he went into the Oval Office, and Trump said, I'm going to make General Michael Flynn my national security advisor. And Obama said, bad idea. Bad idea. According to reporting on this, President Obama told Trump, General Michael Flynn isn't all there. But Trump appointed him anyway. And General Michael Flynn wasn't all there. By that I mean he lasted 22 days. He had to quit after he was caught lying to the FBI about his contacts with the Russians. Besides the 19 attorneys generals suing, Public Citizen, the people's lobbyist, all these lawsuits, most of them Public Citizen is behind. And if you have any spare money lying around, if you trust me at all, there's no greater donation than giving to Public Citizen. It is the people's lobbyist. Go to Public Citizen's website, find out what they do, give them money. So Public Citizen, before the 19 attorneys general sued, Public Citizen, along with 3 federal employees unions, they also sued Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, over Musk's access to the Treasury payment systems. And in that lawsuit, a separate judge earlier in the week granted 2 Department of Government Efficiency employees access to the Treasury Department's payment systems. They were deemed, quote unquote, special government employees. And they were only granted what are called read-only privileges. Read-only privileges, not permitted to touch the files, which are locked. The judge said 2 of Musk's man babies, 2 of them, are allowed to read the files. They can look, but they cannot touch, which is what they were only allowed to do even before the judge told them. You're only allowed to look but not touch. They weren't even allowed to look, but they definitely weren't allowed to touch. Every law governing our bureaucracy prevents Musk and his 20-somethings from seeing and, more importantly, altering documents within our Treasury payment systems. But in this lawsuit earlier in the week, the judge compromised and said 2 Department of Government Efficiency employees can look, but they can't touch these files. One of those two Department of Government Efficiency employees who was allowed to look but not touch is named Marco Elez. And according to Talking Points memo, he had already altered the Treasury payment system's code without permission. Elon Musk, according to Talking Points memo, went in with Marco Elez and they altered the Treasury payment system's code. They changed the software system. If Talking Points memo's reporting on this is correct, and there's no reason to believe it isn't, this is an unbelievable felony. That would be Marco Velez. According to ProPublica, he graduated from Rutgers in 2021, then worked for 3 years at SpaceX and then Twitter. So by all means, hand this guy the keys to the kingdom. What could go wrong? I don't know. Ask Edward Snowden. On Thursday, sticking with Marco Elez, on Thursday, the Wall Street Journal uncovered social media posts from Marco Elez revealing he's a white nationalist. Like, seriously. Like, a real white nationalist. Last September, he wrote on Twitter, quote, "You could not pay me to marry outside my ethnicity." Then he wrote, quote, "Just for the record, I was racist before it was cool." Before it was cool? What is that? I guess he's talking about, 2 years ago when he was living with his parents and they told him to stop talking that way. It wasn't cool. That's how. He wrote, quote, "I would not mind at all if Gaza and Israel were both wiped off the face of the earth," unquote. Well, for an unbalanced white nationalist, that's pretty balanced. I got to hand it. That is balanced. He's impartial. He hates Jews and Arabs. I see him as Trump's next Supreme Court pick. The Wall Street Journal reporting Elez also called for repealing the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Yeah, I definitely see him as Trump's next Supreme Court pick. Elez also backs what he called, quote, "a eugenic immigration policy." Obvious. Is it Velez? I think it's, I apologize. I looking at my notes, sometimes I have him as Velez and sometimes I have him as Elez. I'm pretty sure it's Marco Elez. Elez was obviously forced to resign immediately because clearly he's way too overqualified for such a lowly position as rummaging through our nation's most private documents. He should be over at the White House working with Stephen Miller. So yeah, he resigned. And then Elon Musk took to Twitter and asked his followers if he should rehire Elez, because that's who you outsource our government's Department of Human Resources to. Elon Musk's Twitter followers. Surely they're qualified in their infinite wisdom to determine by a show of retweets whether Elez works well with others and is the right fit for our little efficiency project we got going on over at the government. Yes, let's have Twitter become our Department of Human Resources. Vice President J.D. Vance, who spread lies about Haitians eating pets, immediately took to Twitter to defend Elez. This is what his tweet was. Well, in a second. Here we go. This is from our vice president. Here's my view. This is from our vice president. Here's my view. I obviously I obviously disagree with some of Elez's posts. Some? You disagree with some of Elez's posts? But I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life. No, just the lives of others. Quote, and we shouldn't reward journalists who try to destroy people, ever. So I say bring him back. If he's a bad dude, if he's a bad dude or a terrible member of the team, fire him for that. This from the vice president, who spread vicious lies about Haitians eating cats, eating pets. If he's a bad dude. One of Elez's posts called for Americans to, quote unquote, normalize Indian hate. J.D. Vance's wife, Usha, is Indian. Her parents came to America from India. In fact, she is the beneficiary of birthright citizenship, something our vice president recently called the dumbest policy in American history. Problems at home, JD? Or maybe ED, JD? Don't blame your wife for the ED, JD. Wow, you're against birthright citizenship and you want to normalize Indian hate. They have pills, JD, for your ED. In calling for the rehiring of Marco Elez, J.D. Vance, as white Christian nationalists do, wrapped himself in the Bible and spoke of the grace that comes from forgiveness. You hear this a lot from white Christian nationalists, like our speaker, Mike Johnson, who often defends the violence or racism exhibited inside the Republican caucus by saying, we believe in second chances and redemption. But only second chances and redemption for violent bigots. Not for the single mom on food stamps or the death row inmate. In that case, if you're a single mom who needs insulin for her daughter, get a job. Get a job. Work harder. And if you want Medicaid, you should work for it. Because how else are we going to pay for the tax cuts for the wealthy, which is our grace, what Jesus would tell us to do? We all know this. Real world, genuine Christian grace is transformational behavior. Practicing kindness, not mocking it. Performing good deeds in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus H. Christ. By the way, the H stands for hey now. This is true. It stands for hey now. Jesus added hey now when he found out who his real father was. Hey now, Jesus, hey now, Christ. But we call him Jesus H. Anyway, real Christian grace, something the white Christian nationalists running the Republican Party are congenitally opposed to, would be not forgiving hateful bigots. Not forgiving hateful bigots. Elon Musk then accused the female Wall Street Journal reporter who exposed Elez for being a white nationalist, for being a hateful bigot. Musk called the female Wall Street Journal, accused her of being a, quote, disgusting and cruel person, unquote. And he gave out just enough information on Twitter to make her life a living hell. Musk later told the Wall Street Journal, quote, she should be fired immediately because Elon's all about freedom of speech. That's why Kanye West's Twitter account hasn't been taken down. Kanye West, right now, is tweeting about being a Nazi. He's tweeting about the Jews and about how women need to get slapped. David Schwimmer from Friends has called on Elon Musk to suspend Kanye West's account. But Elon Musk says, I can't. My belief in free speech is uncompromising. Unless, of course, you're a reporter from the Wall Street Journal who just exposed the white nationalism running rampant inside Elon Musk's empire. And so Elez, who says he was racist before racist was cool, he was rehired by Elon Musk the very next day. In rehiring Marco Elez, Musk said, quote, to err is human, to forgive divine, unquote. So Christian. Well, Marco Elez did it all ass backwards. You see, in Trump world, you're supposed to prove you're a racist before they hire you. Your racism, your bigotry, that's your calling card. That's your resume. It's what gets you in the door. For example, I talked about this guy, Darren Beattie, who was just named our State Department's acting undersecretary for public diplomacy and public affairs. It's one of the top 10 jobs at the State Department. And before getting that job, he took to Twitter in October of 2024, and he wrote, competent white men must be in charge if you want things to work. Unfortunately, our entire national ideology is predicated on coddling the feelings of women and minorities and demoralizing competent white men. Aw, well, he doesn't look demoralized. Looks very healthy and competent, very competent. Before I go, I want to just show you some polling numbers because what's going on seems to have the tacit approval of almost enough Americans. It's a new poll from CBS YouGov, and it's pretty reliable polling. February 5th through the 7th. The question is, Elon Musk and the Department of Government efficiency influence over government operations and spending should be 23% say a lot, 28% say some. So that's 51%. 18% said not much. 31% say none. So a majority of Americans are okay with this. Trump's overall job rating, no longer underwater. 53% approve of the job Donald Trump is doing, 47% disapprove. He was underwater, but the more he does, Americans seem to respond. Trump and campaign promises. Is he doing what he promised in his campaign or different from what he promised? 70% of Americans say he is doing what he promised he would do. 30% say it's different from what he promised. I find this calming. I do. It kind of reaffirms some things I believe about half this country. Yeah. Think about it. Think about it. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. We're going to win. We're going to win. The system is going to hold. Some people are going to feel real pain. And as I keep telling you, none of this is real unless you're feeling pain. Pain is real. If you're not feeling pain, go help the people who are. Freaking out, turning this into something it's not, helps no one. Who's in pain? Who's going to suffer from all this? Go help them. And if you're in pain, ask for help. Half this country is still good. And we're smarter than the other half, and we're going to win. I'm not saying there won't be suffering, but these people, they can't help themselves. They always end up defeating themselves. They can't help it. But they're going to hurt people along the way. Thank you for listening to me. I'm David Feldman. I've been coming to you live here in New York City. Please hit the like button so I remain in your feed. Please subscribe to my newsletter, to my channel. Please hit the notifications bell. As you know, I'm a little erratic with the time. I'm going to be doing more shows, but the times are erratic. So hit the notifications bell, please. I'm working harder to promote the show because since the election, Americans have lost interest in some of this stuff. And what I'm saying is not something too many people want to hear, or the platforms, you know. So if you want to help this show, the best way to help is copy and paste the episode and share it with your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren. Share it with your aunts, your uncles, your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your great-grandparents. Just share it with people who you think might respond positively. I'm asking you to do that. I always say just two people are helping me, Robert Smigel and Sam Cedar. I'm not part of some conglomerate, not a 501c3. So this is all I've got. Thank you to Bob and Mila. I will try to do a show tomorrow. I don't know when or where, but I will try to do a show. This is also an audio podcast. And follow me on Blue Sky. It's The Mop Up, at The Mop Up, or David Feldman. Thank you.